Hey, so Sebastian, one thing I've been following is Argentina has been disappointing. If they had a player revolt against the coach, what's going on there?
You know what? That was the story that came out of the Argentine press like 72 hours ago, that basically the team had basically tried to start a coup against the coach. It turns out the journalist who said that doesn't exactly have a perfect record in the past, and now it turns out that most of that stuff, if not exaggerated, was entirely fabricated. They have looked terrible. I think there probably is some internal issues within the team. The coach, who's supposed to be one of the best tacticians in the world, hasn't really had answers. So when you got the best player in the world and you're playing as poorly as they are, and you're in a country where the pressure is as high and the expectations as high as Argentina, it could be a disaster if they don't get out of the group phase, and it's looking more and more like that's a real possibility.
Sebastian, what is going on with Messi? Because, listen, I'll be honest, I watched very little of the game, but I've seen a lot of the images of him. Even, like, during the national anthem, he looks pained. He looks like he already knows what's coming. What is going on?
Messi knows what's on that roster, man. It's not a good team. Like, people think Argentina imploded with talent, and they see some names that they recognize. But if you look at the 11 guys that they rolled out, man, it's Messi and just a bunch of average Joes or guys who are a little bit past it, guys who might have been good 4 years ago, 8 years ago, but maybe aren't there. They're just not a very good team. He is great, but he's not a rah-rah guy. He's not a leader. So people look at his body language and pumping his fists and like getting. He's never been that player. He's not a demonstrative guy. And I think when things go badly, people point at that and they say, oh, Messi's not invested. Messi's not there. But I think he just knows better than most how average this squad is.
Now, in the last game, one thing I did also notice, the commentators were saying they were really closing him off. He wasn't able to touch the ball there in the second half. I think like maybe he had like 10 touches where normally you might have 30 touches, something like that. I mean, can he work harder, though, to get open and to get touches, or can you effectively take him out that way?
Watch the first 5 minutes of a game. He just walks around. And what he's doing is he's kind of trying to find the pockets in the defense. It's just kind of how he sorts himself into the game. He's not a real big mover off the ball. Early in his career, he did a little bit more of that. Now I think he tries to save himself for those special moments in the final third. What you saw in the Iceland game is Iceland put 10 dudes behind the ball from 30 yards to goal. It doesn't matter who you are, the greatest player on earth, which I believe Messi still is. It's very difficult to break that down. And when you don't have other guys around you who are doing anything, and I'm saying anything, it's very easy for them to focus 3-4 guys on cutting off the passes to Messi. And you're right, EB, man. He's just not getting the ball in good spots. And when he does, they close him down in a way where it's just really see him make in Barcelona, where the roster that he's playing with is 10 times better than what he's got with Argentina.
Joined by Sebastian Salazar, who's covering the World Cup for ESPN. So my wife yesterday goes, if you had to pick 3 teams to win it right now, who would they be? And I was like, I don't know. We're talking about one of the teams that is disappointing in Argentina. Who are these top teams? Because Germany, they just survived basically to stay in it with the late goal the other day. They, of course, are the defending champ. I don't know that anybody's really standing out right now.
No, you're right, JP. The favorites have really, really struggled. But that's not really that different for a World Cup. If you look back over the last 3 World Cups, the teams that have won it didn't win both of their first 2 games. Teams kind of build into this tournament. I think Spain still has a good shot, despite the fact they tied Portugal in their first match. I don't think Germany is what I thought they were. I had them winning this whole thing after what I saw against Mexico, and I was at that game live. I was really disappointed in Germany, and as you said, against Sweden, they just got the 3 points. France, to me, is a team that I think is going to be there at the very end. I had them in the final of my bracket against Germany. And then the other team that, you know, is kind of the outsider, we haven't had that many different countries win a World Cup, is Belgium. They're loaded with talent. They're playing well right now. They haven't really had a test yet, so we'll see what they do against England. That'll give us a real measuring stick for what Belgium is. But I think Spain, France, Belgium, right there, and then Brazil. You know, Brazil has some talent, but they've underwhelmed for me as well. Neymar is not what we thought he would be. He's dealing with some injury issues, and I think a lot of pressure that he's under in Brazil. So I think Spain, France, and Belgium right now for me are the top three I'd go with if you had me pick my favorites after 2 rounds of games.
We're joined by Sebastian Salazar covering the World Cup for ESPN. He's taking 100 domestic flights in Russia today. We hope the best for him. Speaking of Russia, they've outscored their first 2 opponents 8-1. Now, those first 2 opponents were Saudi Arabia and Egypt. Today, it gets ratcheted up a bit. They take on Uruguay. Talk about Russia basically doing work in the first.
So the only time ever in the history of a World Cup that the host nation didn't get out of the group phase was 2010 South Africa. And a lot of Russia team was in danger of doing that. It's been a really big surprise what they've done, but as you mentioned, Cake, they haven't really played anybody good. Because I'm a soccer guy, right?
Good luck bringing him in on vacation.
Yeah, he's on vacation, but that's fine.
Oh, well, send him my pick. Plus 205 for the draw today. Uruguay, Russia. Russia needs the draw. They've got the goal differential to go through. I think they get it. Uruguay really hasn't been able to string together any type of meaningful, consistent play. They're just kind of grinding out results. So I like that plus 205 in the draw